Today, I caught the easiest day trade of my life, and I'm going to be showing you guys exactly how I did it and the 4 simple steps that it took to find this trade and execute. So I'm going to go right into the recap of the trade and go over everything that I did to find this. Now, I will say, for those of you who watch me often, I have actually been pretty sick, but I'm feeling better now. So this is my first video in a little bit. So apologies for kind of the delay on content, but let's get right into the trade, okay? And so my trade today was basically NQ longs, and I'm going to go over exactly what I was looking for. So this morning, and we'll just go into replay mode so that this is kind of the general area I entered. So if you look at the 1 hour chart, we were near all-time highs in replay mode, right? And so we had a massive 1 hour inversion right here, okay? So we had this bearish gap from the other day, and we came out and created a BPR, balanced price range, right? We invert it, we go right back up through it. So to me, that's telling me we want all-time highs again. So I did come into the day very bearish because if you look back on the lower time frames, and I'll just kind of show you guys like the 15-minute. So if you look back at the lower time frames, we had created a lot of low resistance liquidity all the way down here, and we also had a bearish fair value gap. But on open, once the market opened up, we actually just started ripping right through this bearish gap. So I ended up having to adjust my bias. I wanted to come sweep out the overnight highs and then short back down to these lows. And that's what I told my Discord I was looking to do. But since we ended up just ripping straight up, there was never any moment or setup that made me think the market's going down. And so once we had this shift where we invert this bearish 1 hour gap, my bias turned bullish, and I thought, okay, previous day high is probably the draw on liquidity here, and that's what ended up being the case. So we go to the 15-minute chart, and this is where I started to look for my entry, okay, because we had ran all morning. We left a breakaway gap right here, and breakaway gaps are very important. If you guys don't know what they are, it's when you have a stack of fair value gaps and one of them is just completely protected. And if the move up is strong enough to the upside, say you have 2 bullish gaps like this, oftentimes you're going to leave a breakaway gap, and to keep your bullish momentum strongest, you want to see that one not even traded into. So when we traded down into this first bullish gap, I was immediately looking for longs because I thought to myself, okay, well, if this really is going to keep pushing up to all-time highs, we're probably not even going to come down here and try to take this gap and fill this imbalance because the move up was so strong and so bullish. And you guys know my trading model, right? STIM. Now, what does it mean? It means sweep, tap, inversion, momentum. So like I said, I had been looking at this leg up in price action, and I wanted to take longs. I was hoping that we would get a pullback before running all the way up to the all-time highs on NQ because, like I said, I wanted to long up to all-time highs, but obviously, if we're pumping straight up, there's not going to be an entry. So we end up getting a pullback into that first 15-minute gap. We don't even cross the midpoint or consequent encroachment, and we already start reacting in a bullish way. So that's where I really started to look for an entry on longs. And the best part about this, if you guys look, so this is the T right here, right? And I'll just type it out. This is T because we had tapped into a higher time frame fair value gap. Remember, this blue box is the 15-minute bullish gap that I wanted to pull back into. And then we had the S right here, okay? Because we swept an internal low on the way down to that bullish gap, right? So this is the 1-minute chart. This is my entry time frame. We swept this internal low and then go all the way down and tap this 15-minute gap. Okay, so I'll just put T, that's the tap right there. We'll have S, right? That's the sweep. Okay, so we have the sweep, we have the tap, and now what am I looking for? Well, the I. I'm looking for an inversion fair value gap. And what does that mean? Well, we need to see a bearish gap on the way down to invert on the way back up on our entry time frame, and luckily we had just that. So right here, we have a bearish fair value gap that we made on the way down. So now, what am I looking for? I'm looking for I inversion, which means we need to close a candle above this bearish gap on the same time frame. And ideally, you want good momentum. That's the M. So the more V-shape kind of impulse move back to the upside this can be, the better results you're going to get most of the time in terms of continuation to the upside when you're longing or continuation to the downside when you're shorting. But obviously here we're longing, okay? And so right here, we end up getting a great candle to the upside, and that's my entry, right? It's very simple. So I entered several micros right here, copy trading my XFAs, and I made a good profit, but I'm more focusing on kind of just the system and the education. But it was a great trade, and it was pretty quick, and it was stress-free, right? So that was the most important part. Now, like I said, we invert right here with very good momentum, so I get in, and then my plan on this trade is to set my stop to break even and start trimming my position down at this. I don't know why the chart just moved on me, but my plan was to start trimming my position down and set my stop to break even up at this high right here. And my stop loss was going to be a close below this 15-minute gap that we had, right? Because the way we reacted so bullish the first time, I was pretty confident we were just going to respect this 15-minute gap, and we actually did that. We even didn't end up returning to it. We just kept on zooming. But my goal was to potentially stop out if we completely disrespected this 15-minute gap, because that would kind of invalidate the strong bullish sentiment I had kind of developed after we pumped all morning, okay? And so if you look, we'll just go on a higher time frame so you guys can see. So hold on, we'll put the risk reward thing to show you guys kind of my thinking when I got in this. So my stop's going to be set at break even right here. So the break even and trim was already about a perfect 1-to-1, which is always nice when you can get a good logical trim or stop to break even level at around 1-to-1. That's usually a pretty good place to be. And then if you zoom out a little more, you can see that previous all-time highs on NQ were right here. And like I said, that was going to be my final target, and it ended up being just over 2-to-1 R. So yeah, it was like 2.2, 2.3 R, and we ended up moving right up. Now, there was a little bit of chop. It wasn't the best day in terms of pure price action, but we ended up getting our target. We ended up getting a logical trim right here. You know, like I said, a little bit of chop. I'll just put this in 10x speed so you guys don't have to watch this forever. But basically, not much else to say, but we end up ticking highs, and we ended up getting a little bit of a bearish reaction off that, but the target had hit, so it didn't really matter. And now I don't know what we're doing anymore. The market's still open, but it doesn't matter because I'm done for the day, right? So kind of put all the pieces together, right? So the STIM model, right? It's 4 steps. Now, all 4 of these concepts, the sweep, tap, inversion, momentum, are all 4 things that some people just entirely base their strategy off of in terms of each separate one, right? Like some people only will enter off a liquidity sweep. Some people will only enter off an inversion. Some people will only enter off a tap into a higher time frame gap. Right, so those are all like my ingredients. Now, some people like the ingredients raw. Think about like if you're baking a cake, maybe you like the eggs, maybe you like the cake mix, but if you put it all together, it's going to be a lot better. Maybe you like the frosting, right? But if you put it all in one, you're going to get better, more consistent, enjoyable results every time. And that's kind of how I think about my model, and that's how I teach it, right? It's when you put these 4 concepts together, you end up getting really beautiful and consistent results. And that's what I've found. And you can watch all my other videos. And, you know, if you're in my free trading Discord, it's completely free. No credit card, no email, literally just click the link and you're in. You've seen me execute this live on various occasions, and you see that it works very well, and it's a nice strategy, and it's very simple, right? When I teach this to you guys, a lot of you guys have given me feedback and said that it's so simple to understand because it's 4 steps and you know exactly what you're looking for. It like either happens or it doesn't, right? You either sweep, tap, and invert with momentum, or you don't. It's not very subjective. It's a very objective thing. So as long as you know just kind of external factors, like don't enter a trade right before news, and maybe don't, you know, trade overnight session if you're not good with that, maybe stick to a certain time of day. Like those are rules you can develop for yourself, but just understand this model is very constant. So sweep, tap, inversion, momentum, stim, right? You put all the pieces together, all the ingredients in the same bowl, mix it up, cook it, you're going to get better results, right? So right here, we sweep an internal low. We tap into a 15-minute bullish fair value gap. So that's the sweep and the tap. Then we have a bullish inversion right here. So notice how we had a bearish fair value gap. We come back up and invert it. So now we're bullish again, and we have momentum when we have that inversion, which tells me we're going to get good continuation to the upside. And then we just long, we set our stop to break even once we hit these internal highs, and we target the external liquidity, which is all-time highs. And another piece for you guys, just for anybody who doesn't know, if this might help you, if we are near all-time highs and you have a good setup, you should probably long, right? If you have a good long setup near all-time highs, because I always talk about draw on liquidity, right? And good targets. Well, one of the simplest, most old-fashioned great draws on liquidity is all-time highs themselves. There's nothing even special that has to be about them. You don't have to have a ton of relative equal highs or exact equal highs, right? Like the all-time highs in and of themselves are always going to be a good draw on liquidity, right? Especially like previous day high. So that's kind of another reason why I took this trade, because even with this STIM model, you do want to have a feasible target. You do want to have a feasible reason for this STIM model to work in your direction. And once you have that, you're going to be cooking. So I hope this helped you guys understand my trading model better. For those of you who watch my videos and have already interacted with my content, drop me in the comments if you also took this today. I don't usually stay on. This was like 11:30 type of trade, 11:30. I usually don't stay on that long, but today I did because there was nothing in the morning, and I did think we were going to hit all-time highs and get a setup to reach them, which we did. So if you have watched my videos and you understand the model, I hope you guys ended up catching this as well. And like I said, make sure to like, subscribe, and comment if you're new around here. And if you're still watching this video, you're probably serious about trading. So yeah, I drop educational content all the time. Make sure to check all of it out. And also join my free Discord, like I said, linked in my YouTube bio, no credit card, no email. Literally just click the link, you're in. You can interact with me. I'm still, a smaller creator, so I get back to every single one of you. So if that interests you guys, make sure to tap in. And I appreciate you all for watching. I'll catch you in the next one. Peace.